It's October 9th, 2019, calling the Tewksbury Conservation Commission to order. Minutes have not been submitted, so we'll skip on to the agenda. Continued from September 18th, public hearing notice of intent, Richard Montori, Town Manager, 984 Main Street, map and lot 47 to 49, 4780, 4881, and 4893, DEP number 3051073. The applicant is requesting a continuance to October 23rd. Can I get a motion to that effect?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Next item on the agenda, continued from September 18th, is a public hearing, notice of intent, John Faneros, ACC Realty, 1037 North Street, and 1547, 1553, 1563 Andover Street, map 39, lots 45 to 48, DP number 3051077. The applicant is requesting a continuance to October 23rd. Can I get a motion to that effect?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Next item on the agenda, continued from September 18th, is a public hearing notice of intent, Warmesett Lanes LLC, 434 Main Street, map 22, lot 69, DEP 3051091. The applicant is requesting a continuance to October 23rd. Can I get a motion to that effect?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Next item on the agenda, continued public hearing notice of intent, Deepak Sony, 70 Orchard Street, map 860, lot 155, DEP 3051094. Haven't heard anything? Oh, there we go. Hi, good evening. Quiet.
Hello.
All right. So, Stefania, where are we with this?
So he submitted his notice of intent. If the commission remembers, there was an enforcement order that was issued because they started construction of a retaining wall. So the work, it looks like, is 38.5 feet from the wetland.
Oh, good. 3-foot high stone block retaining wall, 35 feet from the wetland. Mr. Holland, do you have any questions for the applicant?
I just have a couple of questions on this one. So the wall is not going to be higher than 3.5 feet?
Yes. I mean, it's not going to be.
It's not going to be more than 3.5
Right.
feet? Okay. Because the pictures that we had the last time, it looked like the wall was almost 5 feet.
No, it's not.
Okay, so it's not going to exceed 3.5 feet.
Right.
Okay, thank you.
Good.
That's all I
Okay.
have.
Mr. Sheehan?
I'm good.
Mr. Rohrabacher? Good. All right. Well, it looks like everything's in order. Do you have any special conditions, Stefania?
No.
Yeah, so everything's good. All right, well done. So, can I get a motion to approve the notice of intent?
This is a
issuing
public- this is a
standard
public
order?
hearing.
Oh, public hearing, sorry. This is a public hearing, anyone to be heard on the matter? Hi. Introduce yourself for the record.
Pardon me?
Introduce yourself for the record, please.
My name is Tim Ferwerda, Ferwerda.
Yep.
So he's the one who helped me prepare the application.
Oh, okay, yeah, very well done.
There was an accident on the highway somewhere. I apologize for being late.
No problems. We were actually just going through it, and everything looks in proper order. You did a great job, so
Okay,
we're
thank
just
you.
about to approve it. So, anyone else from the public wish to speak on the matter? Seeing no one rising, can I get a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. And as for the notice of intent, can I get a motion to approve with a standard order of conditions?
I'll make that motion, Mr. Chairman, but I also want to add that it's not to exceed what they said was 3.5 feet
Okay.
for the wall? Okay.
Yep.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
That's what happens when you fill out the paperwork properly, right? Thank you so much.
Yep.
Next item on the agenda is a continued public hearing notice of intent for Scott Kelly, R.J. Kelly Company, Burt Road Development, map 115, lot 4, Route 93 off-ramp, map 115, lot 5, Route 93 off-ramp, map 115, lot 6, Route 93 off-ramp, map 115, lot 7, South Street land, and map 115, lot 8, Route 93 beyond, DEP 3051013. Hi, good evening.
Good evening. Peter Ellison with TEC, with the civil engineer for the project representing R.J. Kelly. I think what I'd like to do is just give you all a quick update from the last hearing on September 18th. We were able to get out into the field with Bill Manuel from Wetlands and Land Management, confirm the delineations of all the resource areas within the town of Tewksbury. His letter, I think, more or less just confirmed what was filed in the notice of intent. There are some recommendations for additional erosion control at the back end of that letter. Does the commission have any questions on Bill's letter or review?
Did you modify the plans to show the additional siltation fence and whatnot?
Not yet, no.
Okay.
Nope.
And we're still reviewing the stormwater management?
That's correct, yes.
Okay, and looks like the NHESP, Endangered Species Program, they reviewed it and it will not result in the take of land, take of state-listed rare species, and will not adversely affect the habitat. All right. I think that's all I have. Mr. Holland, do you have any questions?
I'm good for right now.
Mr. Sheehan?
I'm good.
Mr. Rohrabacher?
No problems.
Okay, so this is a public hearing. Anyone to be heard on the matter? Seeing no one rising. So I think we're looking for an updated map and stormwater review, and then, not map, but plans.
Plans, yeah.
And so 23rd, is October 23rd too soon? or-
More likely going to be the first week in November, or the first meeting in November. We have to get out, do test pits, get the engineering department out there, witness them, and then revise the calculations as well, based on the comment letter, so.
Great. You have that date?
November 6th.
That's great.
Okay. Can I get a motion to continue to November 6th?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda is a public hearing, request for determination of applicability. Benjamin Stice, 120 Sawyers Lane, map 40, lot 76. Hi.
Hello.
Just introduce yourself for the record and maybe a brief explanation of your project.
Yes. My name is Anna Stice. My husband Benjamin is out of town on business, but we are just clearing a small area. There are a lot of boulders that were placed in our backyard when our home was built. So we're clearing some of those and some of the scrub and invasive vines and other things that have grown up there. So if you look at the map, there is an isolated wetland to the south. And so we will maintain the 25-foot buffer zone and not enter it.
Great. Stefania, do you have any issues with what they're?
No issues. I would just recommend erosion control, just so we can mark out exactly where we're working and.
Okay, yeah, and our contractor, D&G Landscaping, they have said they'll stake out the places where they can't enter and also use wattles.
Okay, great.
The boulders you're removing, what are you going to do with them?
We're just going to place them in the perimeter around where we're clearing and to,
But away from the wetlands?
yes, oh yes.
Okay, all right. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Sheehan?
I'm good.
Mr. Roebuck?
Okay.
All right. This is a public hearing. Anyone to be heard on the matter? Seeing no one rising. Looks like everything's in order. So can I get a motion for a negative determination?
So
With
moved.
the condition of stabilization with straw levels?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Public hearing, notice of intent, Kevin Hardiman, Town of Tewksbury Engineering Division, Andover Street and River Road, DEP 305-1096. Good evening.
Andrew Stack, Tewksbury DPW Engineering Division.
Ignator, TEC. John Shikes, TEC.
Great.
Good evening, everyone. So once again, David Nader, TEC, presenting on the Transportation Improvement Project of Andover Street, 133 and River Road. The overall project, like I said, the Transportation Improvement Project, we're widening the road, putting in a traffic signal, putting in ADA accessible ramps, sidewalks, full depth pavement along Andover Street, as well as bike lanes, just making it generally safer and improving that intersection right there, especially with that traffic signal that we're proposing. The resource areas, west of Sandpiper Lane, there's an intermittent stream that runs from north of Andover Street to south of Andover Street underneath it. Yes, so that intermittent stream impacts or buffer zone for the associated bordering vegetated wetland that's below Andover Street that's associated with that intermittent stream. One source of contention prior when I was talking with Stefania was the temporary impacts that are proposed to the buffer zone south of Andover Street. So those impacts are temporary. Essentially what we're doing is we have an outlet point in that buffer zone, and I can answer questions with, as far as that goes at the end of what I'm saying. Sorry. So the general overview of the stormwater for this project. Basically, we're increasing impermeable area overall. I mean, we're widening, but it's only about 8% of the total project area that we're increasing the impermeable area to. The peak flows, because of that, have increased, but only minimally. The peak flows are less than a cubic foot per second, greater than the existing conditions, and so the overall wetland that is flowing to that amount is a negligible amount. I guess, Andrew, you or John, do you want to say anything?
Nothing specifically didn't cover the project.
So yeah, if we open up to questions that you may have.
All right. Stefania, any overriding concerns with this application? Looks pretty good.
Yeah, so I just want to clarify, is it temporary impacts to the buffer zone or to the wetland?
Sorry, yes. So
Okay.
the temporary impacts are to the wetland. I believe that's wetland flagging B. Yes, the B series on the south side of Andover Street. So those temporary impacts are associated, like I said, with the outlet that we're proposing there for the drainage that's going into the improved drainage that's going into the design of the roadway. They're temporary in nature. Essentially, what we're doing is we're putting in we're trying to limit erosion in that area with that with that outlet. Essentially, what we're proposing on doing is, after we have erosion control and all that set throughout the area, we're going to come in and we're going to dig out, I believe it's 15 square feet of the wetland, place in some riprap, and then place that same material right back over it within a couple hours of it. The point of that riprap in there that we propose is to prevent any sort of major erosion to the wetlands based from that outlet. We're placing the material back over that riprap, try to get it match existing grade in there with the same substrate as was before, to minimize any sort of disturbance. That riprap that we're proposing really is just to prevent erosion in there.
Right.
Yes.
Okay.
Well-
Sorry, I'm not done. If you can go first.
Yeah, if you say 1 cubic foot per second additional, what is the current flow?
Yes, so for design point 3, 2 seconds. I have it here somewhere. So the peak flows that are currently going to design point 3, we can even go up to the 100-year storm, or we'll go to the 25-year storm. The current peak flow is going to 16.17 cubic feet per second, and then the 25-year storm proposed is 16.95. So that's less than 1 cubic foot per second.
Any other questions?
When do you hope to start this project? This year or?
The project is being put out to bid in late February of next year. Probably take a couple months for that bidding process and the construction. They're planning on starting around June, July-ish of 2020.
Mr. Holland?
I just have one question. I see that there's a culvert there. Are we planning on beaver prevention or anything?
For the intermittent stream that runs through there, that was not in our plan. I think because it's an intermittent stream, it's by definition is dry for an extended period of time during the year. So I don't believe that it was.
Have we ever had problems up
Not
there?
in that
None?
area, no.
Okay. I'm good, Mr. Chair.
What's the condition of it, the culvert? Is it,
I don't know.
what's the condition of the culvert, do you know, or?
The culvert right now, it's in its existing state. It's in good condition. It's working. It was actually one of our alternative analysis to this was to divert the water into that culvert and try to tie into it. It's running at not quite full capacity, but adding any additional flow to it would put it over capacity. So right now it is running at an operable capacity.
This is a public hearing. Anyone to be heard on the matter?
Sorry, I wasn't finished. Sorry, I just wanted to talk about the temporary impacts. So this is what we talked about today, but I just want the commission to be aware. To me, it doesn't seem like it would be temporary impacts where you're removing the soil, adding riprap, and then putting the soil back. So even though you're putting the soil back, there's going to be riprap now where there wasn't. So it seems more of a permanent impact, and if it's not necessary, really we should scale down. And then just trying to understand how putting soil on top of riprap will work for erosion. It just seems like to me it would erode away, but I don't design
Yes, no,
this, so I
that's
don't.
a fair question. So the plan would be to basically keep the same grade, keep the same substrate as was before. The riprap that was that's shown, and we've done this before in designs where it's a temporary impact in the sense of we take out, like I said, that substrate to the wetlands, and we basically bury the riprap down a little bit. So in case of an excessive storm, if there was any sort of erosion, it would stop at that riprap apron. It wouldn't go further than that. I mean, if there was an excess of water coming in there. We don't anticipate that happening, but it's just to basically minimize any sort of potential impacts to that area. And to talk to your point of how would that soil stay there, the riprap we're looking at is probably 12-inch riprap, or 8 to 12 inch, I should say, and the substrate's like a silty material, and it would stay caught between those stones, and we would build it up to probably a couple inches above that as well. So you would have a buffer between your grade and the top of the riprap.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense. I still think that it is not temporary impacts.
Right.
But that's just,
So what is the difficulty of removing the riprap?
What do you mean?
Instead of burying it, take it out and then put your soil
It's not in
in.
there now, it would just be proposed riprap for the
Yes.
purpose of prevent erosion at the outfall.
Did that answer your question? Or
So,
Are you just saying remove it from the design altogether? Is that what you're suggesting, or?
well, from what I'm understanding is you're putting the riprap up, and then you're going to dig whatever you have to dig, and then you're just going to bury the riprap?
So there's no current riprap there. Currently, what we're doing is essentially digging an area out, the area that 15 square feet out that's in front of or downstream of that outlet that we're proposing. From there, it's essentially think of a 15 square foot I guess divot, right? And then we would put some riprap in there to prevent any sort of to keep any sort of erosion that may happen on a high impact storm. But we would put the substrate back on top of that riprap for everyday storms. So essentially, the riprap wouldn't be there, wouldn't show, wouldn't affect the wetlands until a huge storm comes along and washes away whatever or impacts whatever little area at that outlet would be, because the riprap prevents it from scouring out the rest of that small wetlands right there. That's
All right, yeah.
So the purpose of the soil over the riprap is
to match existing conditions. We're trying to make it.
But it might just disappear then, you're saying during a heavy storm? Or?
During a heavy storm, yes, but the area of the wetland that we're looking at is also very small. So in a storm like that, that area actually ponds, and it's modeled as a pond because there's a culvert that leaves it as well. And so what would happen would be it would be underwater, and the riprap would be exposed. But then as everything settles back down, the substrate in theory would cover it back again.
But you're not adding any additional soil to the wetland. You're just taking it out, putting in boulders, and then covering it up. There's no, you're not filling it.
No, absolutely not.
Right. So whether it's temporary or permanent, do we need to, I mean, they have a waiver anyways, because it's a town project,
I don't think that
so.
is the case.
I mean, it is permanent, so.
If the idea of it really was to mitigate any sort of impacts to the wetlands. We're not by any means married to that design. It was in our opinion the best way to mitigate any sort of impacts. But we could go back to the drawing board if it's not. I guess
Well, from an engineering standpoint, I just care that there's not any fill going in, that you're taking it out.
Yeah.
And then the concern was, is this stuff is going to wash away into the wetlands?
Mm-hmm.
And you're saying that when it settles down, it will probably go back. So sort of like, I'm just wondering why you need anything on top of it in the first place.
I see what you're saying.
Yeah, so.
I mean, we could design it without the riprap.
Well, I'm saying
Or
put
without
it without the topsoil on top, just,
topsoil on top and just leave it as exposed riprap, potentially, I guess, again. The determination of whether it's temporary or permanent, I understand your point for sure. Is that, I guess, is that a hanging point here?
not really. I mean, it's like, my concern is that it's just gonna wash away, but if you're saying it's not, I mean, when I see riprap off of outlets, it's just riprap, not
Yes.
covered back up with soil.
Right.
So,
I mean, we could leave the riprap exposed and not cover it back up with the soil. And again, it's a very small area, 15 square feet. If that is still deemed to be permanent and still deemed to be okay.
Can we do it without the riprap?
I still am in favor of the idea of the riprap itself, because I do think it's something to protect the wetlands from
right.
erosion.
Oh, no, from scouring, yeah, absolutely. It's just,
Like I said before, it was really just our idea to try to minimize impacts to that wetland, but.
Right. I just think the soil on top of the riprap is kind of, I don't know, it just doesn't, I don't think it's really necessary
Yep.
so much.
Yeah, okay.
I mean, it's not, all right, so, is that, we just make it permanent and just make it riprap?
I think, yeah, that's.
Does that make sense? All right. That make sense, people? So, again, this is a public hearing. Anyone to be heard on the matter? So, other than removing the topsoil, I mean, not putting soil on top of the riprap, I think everything's all set. So, can I get a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, motion carries. And as for the notice of intent, I get a motion to approve just a minor change that soil will not be put back on top of the riprap. Move. Second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, motion carries. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda is a public hearing, abbreviated notice of resource delineation. Richard Montori, Town Manager, Town of Tewksbury, 135 Pleasant Street, map 47, lot 40, DEP number is pending. Good evening. Name, introduce yourself for the record.
Certainly, good evening. My name is Peter Collins on behalf of Richard Montori and the Town of Tewksbury Elementary School Building Committee. I'm acting as the project's owner's project manager. And with me this evening is...
I'm Bill Beatrice with Flansburgh Architects. We're the architects for the project.
And my name is Bill Marr from Niche Engineering, I'm the civil engineering consultant for the new school project.
So, Mr. Chairman, Commission members, I'll turn the meeting over to Bill Mayer from Niche Engineering to describe some of the civil engineering aspects of this application.
So I just want to let the public know, this is just a resource area delineation. We're not going to be discussing the project or the buildings or anything of that nature. We're just outlining the resource areas so that they can plan for what they need to do. All right? Sir?
Thank you.
So this plan is a series of plans that Niche Engineering surveyed of the existing school site, the John F. Ryan Elementary School at 135 Pleasant Street. We performed a survey of the site.
Can you actually use that microphone?
Use the
maybe?
microphone.
That,
So we performed a topographic survey of the John F. Ryan School site located at 135 Pleasant Street. And along with that survey work, we also performed through LEC Environmental, who is a wetlands company, and did the delineation of a series of wetlands that are located on the western side of the site. To the right of the page is Pleasant Street, To the north of the page is Monroe Circle. And so, here we've got the Marshall Brook and the wetland area that are associated with that brook. So, as you can see, it typically, follows the edge of the tree line along the western side of the border. At this location right here, the bottom of this page, is the existing man-made detention basin that was constructed when the Ryan School was constructed back in the late 90s. From that wetland line, we continue on to where there is a existing dirt path that people can access from the west end of the paved parking lot of the school to an open area that has very limited access to it except for this dirt path. And again, the wetland delineation just encompasses around the northern side excuse me, of the hill there, of the mound, out and back here, and we went a little bit past the property line for those wetland delineations. And we also found a second area of bordering vegetated wetlands on the southwestern side of the parking lots of the parking lot, which is at this location right here. It's a closed loop, bordering vegetated wetlands, and we did observe a small pocket in which these were connected by a storm drain pipe, at this location here. My apologies, that didn't get highlighted on this plan. And then that's about the extent of the bordering vegetated wetlands that we found on the site. And then we also found, had delineated an area that is currently, for the most part, fenced in except for the backside, which is on the western side of the field near Monroe Circle. It is, there's a wall in some parts of it, but it's mostly fenced off. And as I said, it's open to the northerly side of it, so there is access, to here. We did a couple of observations in the late spring with LEC Environmental to confirm whether or not this might actually be a vernal pool, because there was some concerns from the abutters that there was a vernal pool on the site. We waited to have this delineated, and it was found to be an isolated vernal pool. So, we are showing in some respects the 25-foot buffer, the 50-foot buffer zone around it, and then the 200-foot. But the 200-foot buffer is typically only required for the town of Tewksbury, bylaws, for here. And other than that, report was prepared by LEC Environmental, which I did forward to the commission, along with other supporting documents, the plans, and this application form and so forth.
All right, so we're going to be getting a peer review later on, and we need a DEP number, right?
Correct. We're still waiting on the DEP file number for this project. Has there been any word from the peer consultant?
Yes, so we got an estimate.
Oh, okay.
So, yep.
So they haven't performed anything?
No, we had to get an estimate and
Okay.
get the funds, yeah.
Okay, so we're going to get a peer review, the DEP number. Plants, we have a vernal pool that's going to be protected, and Mr. Holland, do you have any questions?
I did. Why don't you go around? I got to think of it again.
Sure. Mr. Sheehan?
I'm all set.
Okay, Mr. Rohrabacher?
I'm all set also.
All right, well, let's have that be. So Stephanie, just momentarily give Mr. Holland a chance to, other than the peer
Nope.
review.
I don't have anything to add, so we'll wait for the review and see what comes back with that.
Right.
If I might ask the board, what is the typical protocol for the peer review? To do it, is there a site walk between the various parties to look at the wetland flags and make sure they're in their correct location?
Yes, so there will be a site walk with the peer reviewer and then the consultants.
Okay.
As well.
I just remembered. Now, is this a certified vernal pool?
No, it's not.
It's not,
No.
but it can be.
Well, it's an isolated vernal pool, so I don't think it can be certified because it's not connected. Typically, vernal pools are associated with being next to water bodies and things of that nature. In this case, it's isolated. It's not associated with the brook or anything in that respect, so it couldn't be certified.
Okay. That was
Is public hearing? Anyone be heard on the matter? Yes, sir. Can you put the, maybe put the microphone back in there. Just introduce yourself for the record, please.
My name's Greg Mann. I'm about a 6 Monroe Circle. I just heard them state about the various water sources here. I did not hear him mention Pillsbury Pond. There's two streams, one vernal pool and Pillsbury Pond on this site. Actually, on the west side, it comes right at the very end. It comes up to where they're planning on putting a road. It's going to be like right next to this pond. This pond also extends out. They have it as a small little circle. I do not believe where it's located is true. I believe it's closer in. They have it located as a small circle. Since they put in the new practice field in 97, the pond has extended out oblong and has joined into Marshall Brook there. And Marshall Brook, at one time, I grew up in that neighborhood. I've been at my residence for 63 years. When I was 10 years old, you could step over Marshall Brook. It was only like 2 or 3 feet wide. Now it's like 50 feet wide. And the pond itself, Pillsbury Pond, actually extends out into it. So it's not just, there is more wetlands in there than what they're talking about.
Well, if I could just say something.
Sure.
What he's referring to is an area, that's up in this location right here for Pillsbury Pond, but it is, inside of the wetland delineations, that was performed. We did not perform a survey or a location of the pond because it was located within the boundaries on each side, on this side and on this side of the wetland delineation.
So the pond is within the wetland delineation they performed, so.
Correct.
Sort of like they're going to be staying away from it, the pond itself? Because it's in wetlands, the pond itself, and so they're not going to be touching any part of that?
They're going to come with their road, they're going to come within 5 feet of the pond, I believe.
But that little section right there, that's the path?
The part that comes around now, is it comes around here. Right now, this section of the road here which is basically runs along concrete. There's a stream that runs in there that drains in from Pleasant Street. So that's a stream, and then there's a little tiny culvert. They call it a path. Yeah, it is a path. It's only about 3 inches above the brook. It's not like a major path or anything like that. There is a small 4-inch culvert. I don't know when that was put in. As far as I'm concerned, it was put in by my neighbors when they used to drive their beat-up jalopies around that neighborhood, and that's why they probably put it in. I'm just a little concerned that they're extending, when they're putting in this road here, I think they're putting in another 25 feet out into the wetlands, and I don't think they're replicating everything that they're taking away. Like around the vernal pool, that vernal pool was called the vernal pool by the Conservation Commission back in '97. They also called the area around it as wetlands. So I think that's got to be taken into effect. One of the other problems that I have too is there still a floodplain going out into the football field? Because we were told that they would rework it and it wasn't going to be there, but the latest plans that I see here shows that the football field is right in the middle of the floodplain. I want to know...
Any comments to these?
Yes, we can address them all.
This solid line, right here, that comes around and comes through the area here, that is the FEMA line based on the latest firm map by FEMA that delineates an elevation 115 for a flood. We are in the process of submitting a LOMA, a letter of map amendments to FEMA, that the actual location of this, as they delineate it on their maps as elevation 115, at contour 115, the actual mapping will follow the 115 contour, so it will be pulling in that floodplain line on a good portion of the area where it's currently located within a floodplain. So much of the area here will not be located in the floodplain.
Okay. But how long does that usually take?
That usually takes about 1 to 2 months.
Okay.
FEMA has asked for a calculated area of the separate parcels that we have where we are delineating or dividing up those areas to show that, okay, this much area is located here, so they can do their map amendments to show where the true 115 contour is based on the survey that we performed a few months ago.
Okay. But we're just delineating wetlands right now, not the floodplain.
Correct.
Okay. So we'll just make a note of that in the ANRAD. We did not, we're not delineating the floodplain right now. So the floodplain, hopefully they stay out of it, whatever they're going to be building, but we don't know what they're building right now, what their plans are for the area.
The only thing that I do want to state, the only thing I want to...
You just want to just take, you can just stand behind. Oh, we don't know what they're going to be building or where they're going to be building things right now, so hopefully they won't be building in the floodplain, but they're going to be getting a new, FEMA's going to be giving them a new floodplain delineation.
A location of the floodplain, a new location of the floodplain based on the difference between what is shown now as the edge of that 115 contour and where the actual edge of the 115 contour is based on our survey of the site.
Right. So at this point, we're not going to make a determination of the floodplain on this particular application, on this ANRAD, right? Because it could be changing.
Because they would typically be handled by FEMA.
Right.
The only thing I do want to say is that we were told when we brought this floodplain thing up at the very beginning of this project, we were told, oh, we've taken care of it, it's all fixed, don't worry about it, everything's fine, we took care of it. And we were like, you sure? You're dealing, oh no, it's all done. So then we went into the voting from the town and the voting in the general election in the town meeting. Also, everything was said that this has been taken care of and everything is fine. Now I come back and I see that the floodplain wasn't taken care of. So we could never go to a meeting and say, you're building in a floodplain. They said that they had taken care of it, and they kept on saying, no, we took care of it. So evidently they didn't take care of it. You can judge whatever, what I don't want to say what I believe what they're doing to it, but that's what they've done. They're putting spin on it and to get the project passed, and they were able to. And now we're coming back and it's like, no, they didn't do it. They didn't take care of it. It's still a problem. It's still in existence.
Right, well, the floodplain will always be in existence on the site. It will be relocated based on the contours of the existing survey compared to where FEMA has that elevation at.
I understand that, so I'm going to just put it as plain, as simple. They lied to us. They said this project was taken care of. They said the floodplain was taken care of so that nobody would voice a concern at a meeting saying you're building in a floodplain. It eliminates a problem. Now we come back and say it wasn't taken care of. So they lied to get what they wanted.
Well, they're not going to build in the floodplain. FEMA might modify where the floodplain is.
Yes, I understand that,
but
but
they're not going to
that's...
build in it.
I understand that.
Right.
But we were told this, and it wasn't true. Period.
If I may, not to, with all due respect and not to get into any sort of argument here, I would disagree with that. I don't think we, the design team, and Peter, you can speak to this as well if you want, ever said, don't worry about this,
Sure.
This is all taken care of. We've been pretty open with the process. We've met several times with the abutters. We've explained the issue of the floodplain, the application process. From the design standpoint, I feel like we have, speaking for the design team, I feel like we have been pretty open and very honest with not only the abutters, but our client, the town, the school department. We've always said, here's the floodplain, here's where our building is. Looking at the survey, elevation 115 is, here, and we're going to go through the process to amend that map. Nobody's changing the floodplain. It's just the map shows a line that goes here and says it's 115. Our survey says the 115 contour does this. That's all. So just wanted to point that out, and I don't know if you want to add.
I would just simply add, this process for this project is a multi-step process. When we started out with the project early on, over 18 months ago, we set up a conceptual review and a schematic design only with limited funds. We did not do an in-depth survey until the project received additional funding. The project did receive additional funding in May of this year. After that point, the project then proceeded to the next step, which then involved a more detailed site survey by the engineering company, who went out there and did a full-blown survey of the property, which then clearly defined more details of the area, including elevations and including wetland delineation with wetland scientists. So 18 months ago, it was very conceptual and as a means to understand the process and to see if we could build in that area. So again,
That makes sense.
it's a multi-step level.
I have a number of my neighbors here,
Okay.
and they all can attest to what we were told. We've been to a number of these meetings, and we were told that this was taken care of, and that we were even showed, I was looking for the map, where they had moved the floodplain on the outside of the road and said, this is where it's going to be, this is what we've already taken care of, and everything is done. And my neighbors can attest to this fact, that's what it was, that's what we were told, that it was.
Well, we're going to have an independent peer review done, and so we'll take that into consideration,
Yeah.
but they're not going to build anything in a floodplain.
I certainly, that's the reason why I'm bringing it up, because
The floodplain is on the map, they know where it is.
Yeah.
Now, if they're disagreeing with it and they're going to the federal government and saying, hey, this isn't really where the line is, it's really here, that's what they're trying to do. But they're not going to build anything in a floodplain, as far as I know.
I certainly
Yeah.
hope so.
We're not
That's
gonna-
why I'm
we're
bringing
not
it
gonna
up.
We're not going to let it happen, but
Because that's what I've been voicing my concerns about this for, ever since it started, and I kept on saying that you're building, at one time, 3-story buildings, not the school, I'm not gonna, but field house in an area where it's going to, start to sink because it's in a floodplain, and there's a lot of water around there, but everybody was just like, no, it's all set. I was like, okay. I have a question about the detention pond. I understand that's going to be filled in because I understand that it's a man-made structure, so it can be filled in.
Well, if it's a man-made structure and they need to move it or do other things, then it could be. But they're going to have to take care of the stormwater no matter what they do.
Yeah, they said they're going to put in drains, but they said they're going to fill that. And according to the Conservation Commission, back in 97, they were saying that a lot of these detention ponds are considered wetlands. So if they do fill it in, I want that to be considered, that they have to replicate that also. So I'm saying...
This stormwater detention basin is considered a stormwater structure, not a wetland. It meets the requirements. So I just want to add that.
Does that make sense?
So what the Conservation Commission was talking about back in 97 does not apply now?
No, that's not what I said. I said that it meets the requirement of being a stormwater structure. It wouldn't be considered a wetland at this time.
If it's man-made, like, the Market Basket Warehouse?
Yeah.
Right? That's a man-made detention pond. But it is protected to a certain extent, but if they did anything to it, they would have to replicate it somewhere else, or at least take care of their stormwater a certain way. So even if they did fill it, which we don't know that they're going to do, I don't know.
It's considered a stormwater structure, so it wouldn't have the protection as a wetland. I see what you're saying.
On the
but-
existing plans, it is gone and it said it was going to be filled. And as such, I'm suggesting that I think it is a wetlands because of previous conservation commissions had called it that.
Can you bring the documents that you have that you looked at the stormwater structure?
But that would be for the notice of intent hearing, correct? Not for this, because what is before the commission is strictly for the existing wetland delineation, not anything else on the site.
Right, we're not looking at stormwater right now.
Right.
Okay.
I'm saying to show that it's not a jurisdictional wetland.
So you're talking
I think it
about
would be
just
good to
the
have
outside area of
those
it?
documents.
Is that correct?
Pardon me?
Are you talking like an outlying area, nothing on the property, or? Because I also have questions about like no-build zones and...
Right, once we get once the wetlands are delineated properly, then when they come in with their notice of intent, if you will, this is what we're actually planning on doing. They'll show a 25 and a 50-foot no-build, no-disturb zone.
Okay. I do have a question. I was told that on no-build zones and no-disturb zones, that you can put roads on it. Is that true? Is that a town?
It's called a limited project, and everything's compensatory storage, right? If you do any sort of alterations to wetlands, you replicate wetlands. We're very concerned about the stormwater, so any sort of like a roadway to gain access to uplands. It's a limited project. It is allowed in certain circumstances, but there is replication done elsewhere to prevent any sort of flooding, if you will.
Yeah, that's one of my main concern is the last map that I saw, they showed a small, tiny area of replication, and I said, that is not even a tenth of the amount of wetlands that you're taking away right now.
The wetlands that they're doing during the resource area delineation, it's sort of separate from what they would actually perform during the notice of intent. So a lot more information is going to be forthcoming during the notice of intent of exactly what they're going to be doing with all this stormwater. Okay. Right now, they're kind of like, this is where the wetlands are, now let's plan around them. And that's where they're trying to go from. But I don't want to say that, no, they
So
can't.
if you were dealing with drainage and everything like that, that would be in the next
Next step.
meeting? Okay, so that,
No, not the next meeting, at the notice of intent.
yeah, notice of intent, yes.
Right, yep.
Okay.
So right now, we're going to have a professional, independent peer review of the project, of the wetland lines, just to make sure that our independent reviewer agrees with the wetland lines, agrees with the floodplain lines, if there are, if that's part of the delineation.
No, it's not.
All right, so,
So if I was to bring up any type of flooding at this moment in time, would that be here, or would that be the next time?
notice of intent would probably be better when they have the actual plans in place in the stormwater, and then you can actually see what they're planning for the stormwater.
And what about any special requirements for the site itself as to like snow removal?
Yeah, that's during the notice of intent as
Okay,
well.
so that's a notice of intent also?
Yep.
Okay, then I will not bother you anymore.
Yeah.
And,
There's going to be a whole lot of review for that stuff too.
yeah,
so.
so, thank you for your courtesy.
All right, thank you for your concerns. Yes, ma'am. Just introduce yourself for the record.
Yeah, Phyllis Kaplan, 11 Monroe Circle.
Okay.
And is it possible to show you this map?
Sure.
It's just briefly, this was the last one that was given out of the school building meeting, and which talks about wetland delineation. These are the current lines that they have right now.
Okay.
Okay? And as I'm on the other side of the street of Monroe, but all my neighbors here are, it's all in their backyards. I guess I had two questions. And you did talk about some of it. Well, one question is, what limitations does a wetlands line or floodplain provide when development is planned? And I think you had said, and they had also said in the last meeting, that you could put roadways over it, parking lots. My question is, do you see how close all those lines are? And then there's a little driveway in the back that goes into a little parking lot, and they all kind of get fit in between all these little lines, and that's what we're concerned about. Yeah, it's in between the wetlands, the floodlands, the do not disturb. We're just trying to fit everything, and this is called about swampy, wet areas that everything is trying to get pushed into, which we're not happy about it to begin with, but the question is what's happening with all that water, and I guess all that's going to be answered at the next meeting?
During the stormwater, yeah.
Okay. But one thing they are doing is putting all these big basins, like under the turf field, which has no drainage, from what I understand, with a turf field, but they're going to have a huge basin under there, and there's going to be a few other basins around the area to collect rainwater. I still wonder, where's that water going to go?
Into those detention basins.
That hopefully will be sufficient to take them on.
They'll be sized to peak flows and recharge and all these other terms that they say, but basically it's to keep floodwater from going anywhere. It goes into these detention basins, and over time it seeps back into the ground. So they're not going to put detention basins in wetlands itself. They're going to be on the periphery of them, outside of the no disturb zone. But to say that they will be, if they do a road over that, it sounds like they're planning to, there's going to probably be culverts underneath it. They're not going to interrupt any of the flow of the water. Any disturbance that they do, they'll have to replicate elsewhere on the property, so that they're allowed a certain extent, like 5,000 square feet, they can actually put something in, but town of Tewksbury would require them to move that elsewhere in a replication sort of standpoint. So put it in here, take it out there. We usually require twice the amount too. So in general, private developers, we require twice as much, but that's how it basically works. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Were you going to say something? I know.
Oh, no, I was just trying to stick to the facts here. This is This is for the inlet, that's totally separate, that's for the next process,
Okay.
what you're asking.
All right. It's just that everything is the next process, and it's like we've had all these questions right from the beginning. They're getting answered, but we're always on the late side.
Yeah. No, I understand.
You know, it was even from the beginning of notification where we didn't, and it has nothing to do with this, but it's just like we're always trying to catch up over something that's changing our whole lives. Because we never got, even though everybody thinks we were, nobody got notified that this was happening in our backyards. And now it's like, all this is happening. So I don't know the process. I will come to the next meeting. Let's see, where will I click that? And the boring reports that were done, have they been, does this committee review that? Is there another one that does, you know, as far as, does anybody else look at the results of the boring reports?
Peer review, they would.
That's typically in the notice of intent in the stormwater part of that, and our engineering department reviews stormwater.
Okay. All right, I guess that might be it. So I guess this is not the right meeting.
Right. Well, I mean, it sort of is. It's like it's a resource area delineation. We're just trying to make sure that the wetlands are all properly delineated so that they have a better idea of what they can and can't do. And the next step, that's the real engineering. That's where the real cost is involved to the town and whatnot, to engineer these plans so the stormwater does not affect neighbors or anything like that. It's like very important from that perspective that stormwater does not affect any of the neighbors, and that any water that was currently on the project stays on the project site. It doesn't get pushed out to other neighbors. And that's the primary, that's what I look at specifically, just to make sure the neighbors are protected. That's our job. It's
Right.
like they come in and our job is to protect the neighborhood.
And I thank you for everything you do. Just a comment in that we want to protect it also, because that's where we live. And we just feel like the whole area, at the end of Monroe Circle, across, well, there's Pillsbury Pond, across the swamp, or it goes over to, what's that called, Erlin Avenue, or whatever, which apparently that's all been affected from when the Ryan School was put up. But I think there's a lot more water in there than even these maps say. And when they say they're going to redraw lines, I feel like, and this is just the cynical part of me, redraw lines so that it fits the plan. And it's like, it's scary. It's just scary. So, anyway, thank you.
All right.
I take that back.
Are you submitting that for the record?
If I can get a copy of it, this is my only copy. but
Okay.
I can, I'll give it to, I can submit it.
Okay.
All right?
I mean, those drawings are on the town websites. They've been presented at the building committee meeting, so you guys certainly have them in your possession already. Just a word of, those are exhibits that we've been preparing all along for the abutters as the process goes on, to kind of like show them, where the building's going, here are your environmental constraints. I still think there's a lot of confusion about the no buffer, the do not disturb, and the no build zone that we've tried to clarify with those diagrams.
Right. But again, our concern tonight is just the resource areas, and then stormwater is going to be looked at a lot more deeply when they actually come in with their the actual construction plans. So, nice presentation. Yeah, sir. Yeah.
Earlier, the gentleman on this side had a concern about retaining walls. Is there a limit on how high a retaining wall can be?
Anything over 4 feet requires a building permit.
Okay, because where I am, they're going to have retaining walls possibly 7 foot high, possibly 13 foot high.
Right.
Because of Right now, it's 7 foot high, but they're gonna scrape the field, refill it, and then they have to grade it. And they're estimating that they have to put another 5 feet in certain areas, and I don't know where the 5 feet is.
Yeah.
So-
I mean, there's no limit on how high a retaining wall goes as long as it's engineered properly. I mean, you can go down to the intersection of Main and 495 and look over at the Honda dealership, and you can see this big retaining wall. That's their parking lot and the retaining wall and then the wetlands.
The only concern one of the main concerns I have is the height, because it's right next to my property. And then there's a road gonna be on the top of that retaining wall. So
Right.
it's gonna be 7 foot, 13 foot above my property, this road is. And in the bore testing and stuff like that, they stated that, retaining walls should have weak drainage at the bottom of the thing. Well, if it's at the bottom, it's coming onto my property. So, so it's like, it's something that you can't do. You can't.
If there's weeping, I mean, that's to prevent the thing from collapsing. Obviously, you can't just build up water behind.
Well, those are just to prevent any hydrostatic force up against the wall there. And the weep holes, there's space so far apart, they're only typically 4 inches in diameter, and if the soil is ever saturated, it just drains that water away, so to prevent that wall from turning over due to hydrostatic forces. But I can tell you that any water that would come out of it is very, very minimal.
But you can't put any water out on somebody else's property.
I think this would be out of the scope of the ANRAD. I just want to stay on task of what we're doing.
Well,
Those
thank
are
you.
all
Thank you.
great
Thank you for
points for the
answering-
next.
Thank you for answering the question.
All right, that seems to be it for the public hearing portion. So, we're still waiting for... All right. So any other questions from the board members, given the concerns of the neighborhood? All right, so, peer review and, a DEP number, July, you want to do the next meeting or the first meeting in November, or?
Right, well, that's what I was just going to ask you as to how soon do you think the peer review would get done, and if they're looking for revised plans, or the board's looking for revised plans, how soon do they need those in advance? Because it's technically 2 weeks away, and if you're looking for something 1 week away, 1 week before the meeting, which would be next week, I'm just not sure if that's enough time for the peer reviewer to do
So
this thing.
continue it for 4 weeks till November 6th?
I would say the next meeting, just in case. I don't want to postpone it if we don't have to. I'm sure he can get out there next week or the week after.
So when is the next meeting?
October
23rd.
October 23rd.
October 23rd. Okay. So can I get a motion to continue to October 23rd?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed, motion carries.
And can I just ask Stefania, if it has to be continued, can we get the continued so these people can go online, so don't come down and waste time?
Yep, and everyone can call my office beforehand and ask me. But sometimes I get continuations right before I leave.
Right. So, gentlemen, if you're going to have to continue this to a November meeting, can you let it know as early as possible?
Sure, yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, this one,
All right, next item on the agenda is a public hearing, notice of intent, Jonathan Hone, Raytheon Company, 495 OBrien Street, map 1, lot 1, DP 305-1095. Hi, good evening. So introduce yourself for the record, please.
Hi, my name is Jared Yoder, licensed site professional and representing Raytheon Company.
I'm Carrie Lauer from Woodard & Kern, I'm the project manager.
So tonight, we're here in front of the board to talk about some supplemental remediation project that we're going to try and implement behind the thermal remediation project that we came in front of the board for in 2017. That project was largely successful, but we still have some downgrading concentrations from that thermal remediation area in the wetland that are still pretty high and were not effectively treated by that system. And so we're looking to expedite the process of cleaning up the chlorinated solvents that are in the wetland area by installing what's called a permeable reactive barrier. It's essentially iron that we're going to put in the ground with some microbes and to create a wall that groundwater will flow through and destroy the contaminants from migrating out into the wetland and in surface water. The reactive barrier is planned to be installed 10 feet and greater below ground surface, so there's no surface water interactions with the barrier, and there should be no adverse impacts other than us driving the GeoPro rig that will install the barrier at certain points through a 12.
How long is that going to be in?
It's in there forever. It's
Forever?
The intended period of treatment is 10 years or greater. And then once it's done with its life cycle, it's there. And there's
It's kept in place?
It's kept in place.
And so we're going to do restoration of any impact, wetland impact, right?
Correct. Really, the temporary impact would be the driving of the GeoProbe to install the points. The service equipment will be located on pre-existing roads that are in the wetland already. And it's just the width and the length of the rig that we have to drive in there to install the points by monitoring wells that have already been installed out there.
All right, so before the certificate of occupancy, we would expect that the wetlands will be restored to their Mr. Holland, do you have any issues?
I have no issues. If they're cleaning contaminants, I'm all for it.
Stefania, do you have any outstanding concerns?
No, all the questions I had were answered, so
Right.
I'm okay.
Mr. Sheehan?
I'm good.
Mr. Rubbach? Okay. So, this is a public hearing. Anyone to be heard on the matter? Seeing no one rising? So I think we're all set. Got a DEP, we got... All right. So, can I get a motion to approve the notice of intent with the standard order of conditions?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Great, thank you. Good luck.
Thank you, everyone.
Next item on the agenda is a request for a certificate of compliance, J.J. Phelan and Sons, Inc., 1029 East Street, map 103, lot 129, DEP 305841. Good evening.
I'm Steve Harrison from North Environmental Services. The commission heard this, I think 2 years ago, actually, and the only outstanding issue was the wetland replication area. That wetland replication area has been growing now for 2 years, and it meets the performance standards of 310 CMR 10.55, the Wetland Protection Act. You can see from the photographs on the second page that it's growing all kinds of vegetation. There was a bunch of winterberry planted in there, some Irish blueberry. What you see growing is primarily sedge, and it's overtaken the shrubs at the moment, but the shrubs will survive quite nicely. It is wet, it's got a hybrid soil, and it's been growing for 2 years, so we believe it's in complete compliance at this point.
Do you have any issues, Stefania?
No, I saw the shrubs that were planted. I am not good at IDing sedges, so I'm going to have to take your word for it. I mean, but yeah, I don't have any
But that
concerns.
shrub that's overtaking the shrubs, but that's wetland vegetation, right?
Yes, that's what it's all wetland sedges and rushes.
Yes.
Okay.
There are a bunch of winterberry and blueberry.
Yeah, I saw those.
Right. Mr. Holland?
No, I'm good. Seems like it came back pretty good.
Mr. Sheehan?
No, it looks good to me.
Mr. Rohrabacher?
Okay.
All right, so, what are we doing here? So, is it a public hearing? No. All right.
No.
I guess what we're looking for is a certificate of compliance, right?
Yes.
I have to say anything else? I get a motion to grant a certificate of compliance for the aforementioned project?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. All right. Next item on the agenda is a request for non-substantial change, Group 1 Ira Toyota, 464 and 468 Main Street, map 22, lots 71 and 117, BP number 3051027.
Hi, I'm Sean Torby with Dynamic Engineering, representing Ira Toyota. The project had a segmental retaining wall in the northwest corner of the site, and they're looking to just change the material from segmental retaining wall to boulders. They have boulders on site that were dug up to install the approved stormwater systems, so they'd like to utilize some of the existing material on site for the retaining wall. That corner of the site is not really visible to the public. There's some heavy industrial in the back, and then the neighbor to the west is the, well, I don't know if Frank's goes back that far, but it's the auto body shop, and then we've got, the bowling alley and the Fountain Entertainment Center. So they would just like to get the approval to change that retaining wall to a boulder style retaining wall.
Okay. Stefania, you had made a note that it may not have been a retaining wall?
Right, so looking back at all of the plans, it looks like what was originally approved with the Conservation Commission was just sloped down. At some point, somewhere, things changed, may not have gotten back to this board. So really what's proposed with this board is just what they were going to do, which is grading down in that area, to now they just want to put boulders.
Right, and I was not around when the project was originally approved. In my research, what it looked to me was, in order to reduce the impact and the grading into the area, they decided to put the retaining wall in. And I wasn't able to find all the correspondence, but it seemed like it was a resolution compliance item to help not do disturbance and to reduce that footprint. So by putting in the retaining wall, it was in the neighborhood of 800 to 900 feet of square footage of non-impact that was actually saved by having a grade to the area. So that's why, I think that retaining wall was put in. That's what's on the plans that the towns are currently, being built off of. And they're just looking to change the material now because of the material they have on the site.
Mr. Holland?
So it's still going to grade down, you're just going to put the boulders on the grade going down? Or are you building a...
Well, revision 2 from July 31st of 2017 showed grading that went into it further. In November of 2017, they put the retaining wall in, and that's the plans that were approved. Now, the retaining wall, they're just, instead of using segmental block, they're just looking to use the boulders that they have on site. So they were going in for a change of material. But when Stefania and I went through everything, we realized that the plans that were approved showed disturbance a little further in because they were grading 3 to 1 instead of putting a wall. But subsequent to, we think, the resolution compliance with getting the approvals through, engineering, they put a wall in to help reduce that disturbance into the area.
Okay.
Sound good?
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Sheehan?
I'm fine.
Yeah.
Rob Barker? Okay. So, being no objections, can I get a motion that it's a non-substantial change?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Aye, opposed, motion carries. You're all set, thank you very much.
Thank you. Stefani, thanks for your help too.
Yeah,
with
you're
that.
welcome.
Appreciate it.
All right. Next item on the agenda is an enforcement order update for William Kanakis, 20 Cobbett Street, map 103, lot 127. Hi, good evening.
I'm Stephen Everson from North Environmental Services. Mr. Kanakis had done some grading and work on this property. Inadvertently, some of that work was within a wetland area. We went out and tried to determine where the wetland boundary was based on the soils. 99% of the time, I'm successful at that. But in this case, I was not, because the soils had all been disturbed. Let me get my plan here. Because all of the soil had been disturbed, there were artifacts of old wetland soils and just mixed soil throughout, probably during the construction of the house. So there was no natural soil that I could look to determine where the wetland boundary was. So what we'd like to do is, we took the Mass GIS boundary, the wetland boundary, which ran right along the edge of the lawn. We're looking to restore that area. We have the extent of the lawn that we got from aerial photographs, and we'd like to extend the lawn maybe 5 to 10 feet and add some fencing for a dog pen, and we'd like to restore the rest of the area. I just can't determine where the original wetland boundary was, so the best way we can get it is from the Mass GIS, and this is taken directly from that.
Okay. Sounds reasonable. Stefani, have you looked at this? We're gonna get a proposed one. So we're gonna be pushing the lawn out to the purple line?
I'm sorry?
We're gonna be pushing the lawn out from the blue line to the purple line, the wetland lines, or we're maintaining a
Out to the
25
Mass
foot?
GIS wetland boundary.
Right,
The rest of this area we would restore. It's been disturbed right now.
so we're gonna retain the wetland line as sort of a no disturb then?
Yeah.
All right. Okay. All right. Mr. Holland, do you have any questions?
I have none. I'm fine.
Mr. Rohrabacher?
Yeah, this northern part up here where you're gonna restore in here, or just from this line? This way?
This area isn't disturbed out in the back.
Oh, okay.
That's off of our property.
Oh, okay.
There's a minor amount of disturbance out here, but it wasn't disturbed like the machinery disturbance back in this area. So this isn't our property, so we don't really have the right to do anything with that area. We're more concerned about making sure that this comes back properly. There's also a little trench out in this area that we would have to repair.
It shows the stone wall broken between that space?
I'm sorry?
It shows the stone wall broken between that space?
Yes.
Okay.
So what is the plan with the crushed stone trench? It looks like that's off property? Or is?
I'm sorry?
The crushed stone trench that was put in? What's the
Yes.
plan with that?
That's down here.
Take it out?
Yeah, we'd remove all the stone and
Take it
Okay.
out and restore that back to the original condition.
Okay.
It was obviously a drainage channel that somebody dug a long time ago, but it's straight, and streams just don't go that straight normally.
So what would be the timeline of the work?
We'd like to start immediately so we can get the lawn stabilized. We would throw a conservation seed mix on the rest of it, but we want to flatten everything out for now, get everything smoothed over, get the lawn stabilized and rebuilt so it's not a threat. And maybe revisit in the spring and see if it really required plantings in this area. There's a lot of stuff still in there, so it's still growing, and it wasn't all destroyed, so I think it'll come back pretty quickly, but we're willing to take a look at it again in the springtime when the growing season comes around and see if we have to put plants in there, then we can put a few trees or shrubs in as necessary. But we'd like to get started as soon as possible because winter is coming.
Yeah. So we want to take a look at it again in May to see how good the
Yes.
vegetation is coming
We
back.
could update the commission on the conditions and see if more action is warranted at that time.
Well, this looks like a pretty good plan, I guess. Everyone in agreement that we're going to just proceed as designed and then come back in May to take a look at how the replication is, or the restoration is going along?
Yeah.
Okay.
Can I just request before you get started, just put up an erosion control, I don't even know where a good spot would be. Maybe just stake it out so we know where we're restoring and what's going to be lawn, and then at some point, an erosion control put up.
I'm sorry, I didn't catch the question.
It's not really a question. I just want to make sure that at some point an erosion control is put up and that we're staking out exactly what's being restored and what's going to now be lawn, so that everyone knows when they're out there.
Well, we want to restore everything beyond this red line.
Okay.
All right, the rest of this would be lawn like it was before, brought back to the original condition.
So maybe put some erosion controls at that pink line?
As soon as we straighten it out, we can put erosion controls up, but this area has some tread marks, tire marks, machine marks, and rocks on the surface, so we've got to be able to get in there to get that out, and then we will put all of the erosion controls up.
Okay, that makes sense.
So restore and then erosion control. Right. Does that sound reasonable?
Sounds fine to me.
I'm not sure of the date of the first meeting in May.
We don't have those dates yet, but I would just say first meeting.
So can we just, first meeting in May?
Sure.
Okay.
That would be fine.
So can I get all right, so we'll update the enforcement order to take into account these plans dated 8/29/19 and order the applicant to continue making process according to the plan. Progress. Sound good? All right. Can I get a motion to amend the enforcement order to allow them to continue the project as planned?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. And then second motion to continue the matter until the first meeting in May of 2020.
I move.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda, request for a certificate of compliance, Sean Meyer, 40 Orchard Street, map 60, lot 157, formerly address Orchard Street, BP 305675. Rise. Know what's going on with this?
Yep, the homeowner's looking for a certificate of compliance so that they can be released from the order. The order was for the subdivision on Orchard Street. So, let's see. There are, if you look back at the old order of conditions, there are conditions that are specific to what's called a Category 1 lot in this order. So Category 1 lots looked like they were lots within the buffer zone, which would be this lot. And really all it said was 2 growing seasons shall have occurred for revegetation of the wetland restoration program prior to issuance of a certificate of compliance. And the applicant shall demonstrate compliance with all other conditions prior to the issuance of a certificate of compliance. And then the only other condition that would have related was partial releases for certificate of compliances shall be allowed to individual homeowners. However, the project applicant is responsible for compliance. So, I mean, it's tough to say whether the whole project is in compliance, but I think a partial release of this lot would be all right.
So they actually, so this is,
And this was from 2001?
Yes, I think so.
Orchard Street.
Yeah, April 3rd, 2001 is when the order was issued.
Okay, so we need a request. Okay. So it'd be partial certificate of compliance for the site located at 40 Orchard Street, referencing Middlesex North, document 195571. Does that sound right?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Partial release. I get a motion to that effect?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Sheehan has left the building. Yeah. Next item on the agenda, enforcement order update, Lawrence and Katie Mitica, 90 Autumn Lane, map 18, lot 128.
Okay, so this was continued from the spring, maybe, I think from June. So the enforcement order was amended to state that the area should be revegetated on its own with no new plantings. I don't know if the commission remembers, but this home has sold, so there's new homeowners. So when I went there, no one was home, so I just kind of looked from the street, so I didn't really get a good look of the plantings, of the vegetation that's growing in there. If the commission would prefer that I get a good detailed look of the area, I'll have to try to find a way to contact the new owners, probably send them a letter and try and schedule something with them. But there is a lot of growth, I don't know exactly what's growing, but.
But they allowed the area to revegetate on its own. It looks like it revegetated. So, questions from Mr. Holland?
No, I have none. It does look like it came back pretty good.
Mr. Sheehan?
I'm fine.
And Mr. Rohrbacher? Good. Okay, so, and to get a motion to bring the property back into compliance.
I move.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Next item is an enforcement order update. Michael Spence, 3 Bailey Road, map 40, lot 46.
Okay, so this is another update from June, I think, June or July. So the homeowners had to finish restoration in the wetland and no disturb zone. and it was continued to October to get an update on what the area looked like now, so.
How's it looking?
So it looks good. Again, there's a lot of vegetation growing in. They just took the closest wetland flag to their home, measured 25 feet out, and they're just gonna let that whole area revegetate so that there's no question in the.
Okay.
So it's back in compliance?
Yeah, it's revegetating.
Okay, that's what we asked. Revegetating, respecting the no disturb zone. Okay. Mr. Sheehan?
I'm fine.
Mr. Rogas?
Good.
Holland, all set?
I'm all set.
So I get a motion to bring the property back into compliance?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. And next item on the agenda is an enforcement order update. Beluco, 170 Bradford Road, map 111, lot 57.
Okay, so this one was also continued. So where we left this one is that the commission amended the enforcement order to say they needed to stabilize the area. So I went out there and they stabilized everything in the buffer zone from the slope down is stabilized, and they plan on doing the rest of the site as well, but I think that's outside of our jurisdiction now.
They did what we asked them to do?
Yep, they stabilized.
Okay. Mr. Holland?
I'm good.
Mr. Sheehan?
Looks much better.
Mr. Rohrabacher?
Looks good.
All right, so can I get a motion to bring the property back into compliance?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed,
Aye.
motion carries. Next item on the agenda, request for certificate of compliance, DR Law, 61 Berry Drive, former address, lots 3, 4, and 5, and 6 on Shawshene Street, DP 305-44. All right, so without to the address, it looks nothing crazy going on?
No, I don't know what this order was for, but this property is fine.
Okay. All right, so,
If the order of condition file dated 1978.
Right.
All right.
It was likely for this subdivision or something like that.
okay. All right, so referencing Middlesex Registry of Deeds, book 2346, 195. I get a motion to grant a certificate of compliance.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. And next item on the agenda is wetland protection fund request from Richard Montori. This is to fund the peer review of the ANRAD application for 135 Main Street, Pleasant
Correct.
Street. So do we have a estimate? What are we looking for?
Yeah. So here's the request, and then we got an estimate bill manual.
Okay. So $2,000. All right. So about $2,000. Does that sound reasonable, guys? All right. Anyone want to see this?
Oh, I got one.
Yeah.
All right.
We go.
So can I get a motion to appropriate up to $2,000 from the Wetland Protection Fund?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. All right. Signatures, next meeting, October 23rd.
Thank you. Any documents you guys don't want? Anyways.
I think that's it. Get a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very much.